Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiance and watched the greatest armada in Alliance history prepare for battle. 200 ships from 15 different worlds filled the space around Nexus Station. Half were traditional Alliance vessels. The other half had been modified using human technology and crewed by human-trained officers. Captain Hyojun commanded the Iron Spine in the experimental formation. 3 weeks of intensive training had changed him. He moved differently now, thought differently. The rigid Krathari military doctrine had been replaced by something more flexible and dangerous. Final sensor sweep complete, reported Engineer Yujin from her station. The young human woman had replaced most of the ship's standard equipment with devices that seemed to break physics. Target located. The Shadowbane is approaching from the Void sector. Admiral Minho nodded. The human had been promoted to fleet command after proving his tactical abilities in the recent campaign. Alliance officers had initially protested the decision. Humans were still newcomers to galactic warfare. But results spoke louder than tradition. Signal all ships, the Admiral ordered. Execute Plan Chaos in 30 minutes. Captain Raywan's voice came over the communication channel from her modified Alliance vessel. Admiral, are we certain about this strategy? It seems very risky. All strategies are risky when facing the Shadowbane, Admiral Minho replied calmly. The question is whether we take calculated risks or let the enemy calculate for us. Dr. Bora had spent weeks studying the Shadowbane's approach patterns. The enemy ship always attacked the same way. Arrive at maximum range, scan for defensive formations, then systematically destroy the strongest targets first. It was logical, efficient, and completely predictable. The Vorthan Empire has optimized their forces for logical warfare, she had explained during the final briefing. Their crews are trained to eliminate variables, follow procedures, and maintain discipline at all costs. What does that mean for us? Captain Hyojun had asked. It means they cannot adapt to variables they did not anticipate, Commander Kyung-ho had replied. Their strength is also their weakness. Now that theory would be tested. The Shadowbane appeared on long-range sensors exactly when predicted. The massive black ship moved through space with its usual terrible confidence. Its weapons were already charging. All ships assume random positions, Admiral Minho ordered. The Alliance fleet scattered throughout the star system. Ships hid behind asteroids, inside gas clouds, and near the local star's corona. Others positioned themselves in seemingly empty space. There was no pattern, no formation, no logical defensive strategy. Captain Hyojun flew the Iron Spine to a position near the system's outer asteroid belt. His crew had been replaced with volunteers from 6 different species, all trained in human tactical methods. The bridge felt different, louder, more chaotic but somehow more alive. Sir, we are receiving a signal from the Shadowbane, reported Lieutenant Somin. Put it through, Captain Hyojun ordered. The main screen displayed a Vorthon commander. The alien was tall, gray-skinned, with the mechanical precision typical of their species. Its voice was cold and emotionless. Alliance forces, you are positioned in non-optimal defensive formations. Reorganize into standard patterns for efficient termination. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Engineer Taman almost laughed. They want us to make it easier for them to kill us? Typical Vorthan thinking, Captain Hyojun replied. They believe efficiency is more important than victory. Admiral Minho's voice came over the fleet channel. All ships ignore enemy communications. Execute Phase 1. The first part of Plan Chaos began. Instead of attacking the Shadowbane, the Alliance fleet started attacking each other. Ships fired at their own allies, launched missiles at empty space, and performed maneuvers that made no tactical sense. The Shadowbane's crew seemed confused. Their sensors showed Alliance forces destroying themselves without enemy intervention. The great ship slowed its approach, apparently trying to understand what was happening. Phase 1 complete, reported Engineer Yujin. Enemy is analyzing our behavior patterns. Good, Admiral Minho said. Execute Phase 2. Now the real plan began. The Alliance ships that had been destroyed in Phase 1 suddenly reactivated. Their damage was fake, created by holographic projectors and sensor jammers. The ships that had been firing at allies had actually been providing cover and resupply. Captain Hyojun watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Shadowbane's artificial intelligence was trying to process impossible data. Ships that should be dead were moving. Attacks that should have caused damage had no effect. The enemy's predictive algorithms were failing. Sir, The Shadowbane is requesting data verification. Lieutenant Somin reported. Let them wait, Captain Hyojun replied. Phase 3 involves something humans called psychological warfare. Every ship in the Alliance fleet began broadcasting on all frequencies. But instead of normal military communications, they transmitted music, poetry, jokes, and personal messages. Captain Ray Wan's voice came over the general channel, singing an old Krathari war song. Pilot He-Rim was broadcasting what humans called death metal music. Dr. Wusiak was reciting scientific equations in a dramatic voice. The cacophony was overwhelming. The Shadowbane's crew tried to filter the signals, but there were too many sources broadcasting too much information. Their communication systems became clogged with meaningless data. Enemy ship is showing signs of system overload, Engineer Yujin reported. Their AI is processing non-combat data as potential threats. Execute Phase 4, Admiral Minho ordered. The final phase was the most dangerous. Every ship in the Alliance fleet began moving toward the Shadowbane simultaneously. But they did not attack in formation. Each ship chose its own approach, its own timing, its own target. Some ships flew directly at the enemy's main guns. Others approached from impossible angles. A few actually flew inside the Shadowbane's sensor range before attacking. The assault looked like chaos, but each movement had been carefully planned. Captain Hyojun led a group of ships in a spiraling attack pattern inspired by human fighter tactics. They used the Shadowbane's massive size against it, flying between its weapon emplacements where the main guns could not target them. This is insane, Engineer Taman muttered as they dodged between massive cannon barrels. That is the point, Captain Hyojun replied. The Shadowbane's crew was panicking. Their ship was surrounded by enemies moving in patterns no computer could predict. The artificial intelligence kept calculating optimal responses, but every calculation was wrong before it could be implemented. Enemy weapon systems are misfiring, reported Lieutenant Somin. They are shooting at positions we have already left. Admiral Minho's voice came over the fleet channel. All ships initiate boarding protocols. This was the most audacious part of the plan. Instead of trying to destroy the Shadowbane from outside, they would capture it from within. Human-trained teams had practiced boarding maneuvers for weeks. Captain Hyojun watched as small ships attached themselves to the enemy hull like parasites. Cutting tools sliced through armor plating. Boarding parties poured into the Shadowbane's corridors. The enemy crew had never faced this type of assault. Vorthan doctrine called for ship-to-ship combat, not hand-to-hand fighting in corridors. They were unprepared for the chaos that followed. Sir, boarding teams report success, Engineer Yujin announced. They have reached the command center. The battle for the Shadowbane's bridge was brief but decisive. The Vorthan crew surrendered when faced with Alliance warriors who fought like humans, unpredictably, emotionally, and with complete disregard for their own safety. Admiral Minho received the final report an hour later. The Shadowbane is secure. Minimal casualties on our side. The enemy crew is in custody. Captain Hyojun felt a strange sensation. After 3 years of fear and defeat, the nightmare was over. The most dangerous ship in the galaxy had been captured by forces using human tactics. How did we do it? Captain Ray Wan asked during the victory celebration. Dr. Bo-Ra provided the answer. The Vorthan Empire created perfect soldiers for predictable warfare. But war is never predictable. Humans understand this. They embrace chaos instead of fighting it. Commander Kyung-ho joined the conversation. Your species evolved on Deathworlds. You already knew how to survive chaos. You just needed to remember. Captain Hyojun thought about his homeworld of Krathar. Life there was constant adaptation to changing conditions. Acid storms, poisonous predators, unstable ground. Survival meant being ready for anything. We are not so different, humans and Alliance species, he said. We all learned to survive impossible situations. Admiral Minho smiled. The difference is that we learned to use impossibility as a weapon. The captured Shadowbane was taken to Alliance space for study. Its advanced technology would be used for defense, not conquest. The ship that had terrorized the galaxy would become a symbol of hope. But Captain Hyojun knew the real victory was not capturing one ship. The real victory was learning to think like humans. The Alliance had discovered that their greatest strength was not their individual power, but their ability to work together in ways no enemy could predict. What happens now? Engineer Taman asked. Now we teach the rest of the galaxy. Captain Hyojun replied. Commander Kyung-ho arrived at Station Prime 3 days after the successful defense of the Outer Rim. The human Special Forces leader looked different from the other humans Captain Hyojun had met. Shorter, more muscular, with scars on his hands and a calm intensity in his eyes. I hear you want to learn our methods, Commander Kyung-ho said without introduction. Yes, Admiral Nari replied. Your people have proven the Shadowbane can be defeated. We need to know how. The human commander studied the Alliance officers gathered in the briefing room. Captain Hyojun, Captain Raewon, Engineer Taemin, Dr. Woo Seok, and a dozen other experienced fighters. All warriors from Deathworlds, all veterans of countless battles. First lesson, Commander Kyung-ho said. Forget everything you know about proper tactics. The room erupted in protests. Captain Raewon stood up angrily. Our tactics have been developed over thousands of years. They work. Against normal enemies, yes, the human agreed. But the Shadowbane is not normal. It studies your tactics and uses them against you. Standard doctrine becomes predictable. Predictable means dead. Dr. Woo-seok leaned forward with interest. What do you suggest instead? Chaos theory, said a new voice. Scientist Bo-ra entered the briefing room carrying a portable computer. The young human woman looked like she belonged in a laboratory, not a military meeting. But her eyes held the same intensity as Commander Kyung-ho's. Dr. Bo-ra has been studying the Shadowbane's behavior patterns, the commander explained. Tell them what you found. The scientist activated her computer. Holographic displays showed the enemy ship's attack patterns from dozens of battles. The Shadowbane uses artificial intelligence to predict enemy movements. The AI analyzes historical data, tactical doctrines, and logical decision-making patterns. That explains how it always knows what we will do, Captain Hyojun said. Exactly, Dr. Bo-ra continued. But AI has limitations. It cannot predict truly random behavior. It cannot understand actions that seem to go against survival instincts. You want us to be random? Asked Engineer Taemin. That sounds like a good way to get killed. Not random, Commander Kyung-ho corrected. Unpredictable. There is a difference. Random means no plan. Unpredictable means a plan the enemy cannot guess. Dr. Bo-ra brought up recordings from the recent battle. Watch this maneuver by pilot Hyrim. She flew directly toward enemy fire, then turned away at the last second. The AI calculated she would turn away earlier to ensure survival. When she waited longer than expected, the enemy shots missed. Captain Raewon shook her head. That is not tactics. That is gambling with your life. All warfare is gambling, Commander Kyung-ho replied. The question is whether you control the odds or let the enemy control them. Admiral Nari had been silent during the exchange. Now she spoke up. What exactly are you proposing, Commander? A new doctrine, the human said. Teach your forces to think like humans. Use emotion as a weapon. Take calculated risks that look like madness. Make the enemy react instead of predict. This goes against everything we have learned, Captain Hyojun said. Your learning has failed against the Shadowbane, Dr. Bo-ra pointed out gently. Perhaps it is time to try something new. The training began the next day. Commander Kyung-ho divided the Alliance officers into small groups. Each group would learn different aspects of human tactical thinking. Captain Hyojun found himself in the emotional warfare group. The concept seemed ridiculous at first. Krathari warriors were trained to suppress emotion in battle. Emotion led to mistakes. Lesson 1, Commander Kyung-ho announced. Make your enemy angry. Why would we want to do that? Asked Captain Raewon. Angry enemies make mistakes, the human explained. They stop thinking clearly. They focus on revenge instead of victory. The commander showed them recordings of human conflicts throughout history. Armies defeated by rage, generals who lost battles because they took insults personally, soldiers who abandoned good positions to chase enemies who had humiliated them. But how do you make a spaceship angry? Engineer Taemin asked. Ships have crews, Dr. Bo-ra replied. Crews have feelings. Target their pride, their confidence, their sense of superiority. The training continued for weeks. Alliance officers learned to use psychological warfare, unpredictable maneuvers, and calculated risk-taking. It was the hardest thing Captain Hyojun had ever attempted. His natural instincts told him to follow proven procedures. When under fire, seek cover. When outnumbered, retreat. When facing superior forces, use defensive tactics. Human doctrine suggested doing the opposite of what felt safe. This feels wrong, Captain Raywan complained after a particularly difficult simulation. Good, Commander Kyung-ho replied. If it feels right to you, it will feel predictable to the enemy. Dr. Bora ran analysis on the training exercises. Alliance forces are adapting faster than expected, she reported. Deathworld species seem naturally suited for high-risk tactics. Makes sense, the commander agreed. You grew up on planets trying to kill you. Taking dangerous risks is normal for your people. Captain Hyojun began to understand what the humans meant. Life on Krathler was a constant gamble. Every day, his people had to decide which risks were worth taking. Was it safe to go outside during acid storms? Could they drink from contaminated water sources? Should they hunt the poisonous prey animals? Survival on a death world required exactly the kind of calculated risk-taking humans used in battle. The first test of the new doctrine came sooner than expected. Vorthan raiders attacked a mining colony in the Beta sector. It was not the Shadowbane, but the enemy ships used similar technology and tactics. Admiral Nari assembled a mixed fleet for the rescue mission. Half Alliance ships using traditional tactics, half human-trained vessels using the new doctrine. Captain Hyojun commanded one of the experimental ships. Remember, Commander Kyung-ho said during the final briefing, your goal is not to destroy the enemy. Your goal is to save the colonists. Think like humans, not like warriors. The fleet jumped into the Beta system to find 6 Vorthan destroyers bombarding the colony. The traditional Alliance ships immediately formed attack formations and engaged the enemy. The human-trained ships scattered and began their own operation. Captain Hyojun felt his training taking over. Instead of joining the main battle, he flew his ship toward the planet's surface. The Vorthan ships ignored him, focusing on the larger threat from the traditional fleet. Sir, we are not supporting the attack, Engineer Taemin pointed out. We are not attacking, Captain Hyojun replied. We are rescuing. His ship dove through the planet's atmosphere at dangerous speed. Vorthan fighters moved to intercept, but Captain Hyojun used techniques learned from pilot Hae Rim. He flew erratically, changing course without warning, using the planet's gravity to perform impossible turns. The enemy fighters could not get a clean shot. Their targeting computers kept losing lock as his ship moved in patterns that made no logical sense. Other human-trained ships were performing similar maneuvers throughout the system. They ignored the main battle and focused on their real mission, evacuating civilians. Some flew rescue shuttles through active combat zones. Others used their ships as shields to protect evacuation convoys. The Vorthan commanders grew frustrated. Their carefully planned attack was falling apart. The Alliance forces were not behaving according to doctrine. Instead of focusing on destroying enemy ships, they were prioritizing civilian lives. This is inefficient, one Vorthan captain complained over an intercepted communication. They should be trying to defeat us, not save their people. Efficiency is overrated, Captain Hyojun muttered as he picked up another load of evacuees. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vorthan raiders had destroyed 3 Alliance ships and damaged several others. By traditional measures, they had won, but they had failed to complete their mission. The colony was evacuated. The civilians were safe. The mining facilities were damaged but not destroyed. Tactical victory, strategic defeat, Dr. Bora observed during the debriefing. The enemy won the battle but lost the war. Admiral Nari studied the battle recordings with growing excitement. The human doctrine worked. Our people learned to think differently. This is just the beginning, Commander Kyung-ho warned. The real test will come when we face the Shadowbane again. Captain Hyojun felt ready for that test. The human methods were difficult and dangerous, but they worked. More importantly, they felt right, like returning to the survival instincts that had kept his people alive on their deadly homeworld. When do we start training the rest of the fleet? He asked. Commander Kyung-ho smiled. Tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do. Dr. Bora activated her computer again. I have been tracking the Shadowbane's movements. The ship is heading for the core worlds. If our calculations are correct, it will arrive in 3 weeks. Perfect timing, Admiral Nari said grimly. We will be ready. Captain Hyojun hoped she was right. The Alliance had learned to fight like humans. Now they needed to prove they could think like humans too. The real test was coming. 1 month after Earth joined the Alliance, General Wu Jin arrived with a small human fleet. Captain Hyojun met the human commander at the docking bay. The general was older than the other humans, with gray hair and calm eyes. He moved slowly but with purpose, like someone who had seen many battles. Welcome to Station Prime, General, Captain Hyojun said. Thank you, Captain, General Woojin replied. I understand you have been having trouble with an enemy ship. Captain Hyojun almost laughed. Trouble was a mild word for the terror the Shadowbane had caused. But he nodded politely. Yes, sir. We hope your people can help. The human fleet was small, only 12 ships. They looked different from Alliance vessels. Sleeker, more curved. They seemed designed for speed rather than armor. Captain Hyojun wondered if they could survive a real battle. Admiral Nari assigned the humans to defend the Outer Rim territories. It was considered a safe posting. The Shadowbane rarely attacked the border worlds. They had little strategic value and weak defenses, perfect for the untested human forces. Are you sure about this? Captain Raywan asked Admiral Nari privately. The humans seem brave, but their ships look fragile. They will learn, Admiral Nari replied. Better they learn in a quiet sector than during a major battle. Captain Hyojun was not so sure. He had studied the human rescue during the last Shadowbane attack. Captain So-young's tactics made no sense according to military doctrine. But they had worked. He began to think humans might understand something the Alliance did not. 2 weeks later, the impossible happened. The Shadowbane attacked the human sector. Captain Hyojun received the alert while sleeping. He rushed to the command center to find the communication stations buzzing with activity. Long-range sensors showed the enemy ship moving toward the human positions at maximum speed. Why would it attack there? Asked Dr. Woo-seok. The Outer Rim has no military value. Maybe it wants an easy victory, suggested Lieutenant Ji-won. To restore its reputation after the last battle, Admiral Nari activated the communication system. General Woojin, you have an enemy contact approaching your position. Recommend immediate evacuation. The human general's voice came back calm and steady. Thank you for the warning, Admiral. We see the contact. We are not evacuating. General, you have 12 ships against 1 dreadnought. You cannot win this fight. Probably not, General Woojin agreed. But we can try something interesting. The Alliance commanders watched their tactical displays with growing concern. The human ships moved into positions that made no sense. Instead of forming a defensive line, they scattered across the entire star system. Some hid behind asteroids. Others positioned themselves near the local star. 2 ships actually flew into the gas giant's atmosphere. What are they doing? Captain Raywan asked. I have no idea, Admiral Nari admitted. The Shadowbane entered the system and immediately began scanning for targets. Its sensors detected human ships in multiple locations. The enemy vessel paused, apparently confused by the scattered formation. Then the humans began their attack. But it was unlike any military operation Captain Hyojun had ever seen. Instead of weapons fire, the humans broadcast signals on all frequencies. Music filled the communication channels. Human voices spoke in their strange language. Some laughed. Others sang. The sounds made no sense to Captain Hyojun, but they seemed to disturb the Shadowbane's crew. What is that noise? Demanded Admiral Nari. Human culture, apparently, Dr. Woo-seok replied, studying the signal patterns, music, poetry, something called stand-up comedy. The Shadowbane's response was swift and violent. Its massive guns fired at the nearest human ship. The small vessel should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, it flew directly toward the enemy fire. At the last second, it twisted away and launched a spread of missiles. The missiles did no damage to the Shadowbane's armor, but they were not meant to. Each missile exploded into clouds of reflective chaff and sensor-jamming particles. The enemy ship's targeting systems began giving false readings. Suicide attack, breathed Captain Raywan. They flew right into the guns. But they survived, pointed out Captain Hyojun. How? The answer came from pilot Hirim's voice over the communication channel. Timing and luck, mostly, the young human woman said cheerfully, plus some very careful calculations about reaction times. More human ships emerged from hiding. Each one performed equally impossible maneuvers. They dove toward the Shadowbane at full speed, then veered away at the last moment. They flew through their own weapons fire. They used the enemy ship's mass to slingshot around it in tight spirals. The Shadowbane's crew seemed to panic. The great ship began firing randomly in all directions. Its movements became erratic, aggressive. The disciplined vessel that had terrorized the galaxy now looked clumsy and desperate. The enemy is responding emotionally, Dr. Woo-seok observed. This is unprecedented. Humans are good at making people angry, General Wu Jin's voice came over the radio. "It is one of our special talents." The battle continued for 3 hours. The human ships took damage, but none were destroyed. They kept moving, kept broadcasting their strange signals, kept performing their impossible maneuvers. The Shadowbane grew more frustrated with each passing minute. Finally, the enemy ship did something it had never done before. It retreated while taking no damage and completing no objectives. The Alliance fleet watched in stunned silence as the Shadowbane jumped to hyperspace. The most feared ship in the galaxy had been defeated by 12 small vessels in what sounded like a very loud party. "Report," Admiral Nari demanded. General Wu Jin's image appeared on the communication screen. He looked tired but pleased. "Mission successful, Admiral. Enemy driven off with minimal casualties. How did you do it?" Captain Hyojun asked. "Psychology," replied Dr. Yan Ho, who appeared beside the general. "We studied the Shadowbane's previous battles. The ship operates using logical algorithms. Its crew follows strict procedures. They are not prepared for chaos." "So you gave them chaos," Admiral Nari said slowly. "Controlled chaos," General Wu Jin corrected. "Everything we did had a purpose. But the purpose was not to destroy the enemy ship. The purpose was to break the enemy's confidence." Pilot Hyerim joined the conversation. "We call it psychological warfare. Make the enemy think you are crazy. Then they start making mistakes." "But your maneuvers were genuinely dangerous," Captain Raywan protested. "You could have been killed." "Yes," agreed Captain So Young. "But the enemy did not expect us to take such risks. Their computer calculated that we would choose safety over effectiveness. We chose effectiveness instead." Captain Hyojun studied the battle recordings with growing amazement. The human tactics looked suicidal at first glance, but careful analysis showed they were precisely calculated risks. The humans had studied the Shadowbane's weapons patterns and reaction times. They knew exactly how close they could fly without being destroyed. "This changes everything," Admiral Nari said quietly. Over the following days, Alliance officers analyzed every second of the battle. The humans had done more than survive an encounter with the Shadowbane. They had proven the enemy ship could be confused, frustrated, and driven away. "The Vorthan Empire builds perfect soldiers," Dr. Wusuk explained during the briefing. "Perfect discipline, perfect obedience, perfect logic. But perfection has weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" asked Commander Dalsu. "Perfect soldiers cannot adapt to imperfect situations," Dr. Yanho replied. "They follow patterns. Break the patterns and you break their effectiveness." Captain Hyojun felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope. Real hope, not desperate wishful thinking. The humans had shown that the Shadowbane was not invincible. It could be beaten, but he also felt troubled. Human methods required taking terrible risks. Alliance doctrine emphasized protecting valuable ships and experienced crews. Human doctrine seemed to risk everything for uncertain gains. "Can you teach these tactics to Alliance forces?" Admiral Nari asked. General Wu Jin considered the question carefully. "Some techniques, yes. But the mindset is difficult to learn. Humans grow up expecting chaos. Your species evolved in more predictable environments." "We can learn," Captain Hyojun said firmly. "If it means defeating the Shadowbane, we can learn anything." Pilot Hyerim smiled. "Learning to think like a human is harder than you might expect, Captain." "Are you sure you want to try?" Captain Hyojun looked at the tactical displays showing Vorthan territory expanding every day. He thought about the colonies that had been destroyed, the civilians who had died, the fear that gripped the entire galaxy. "Teach us," he said. The human woman's smile grew wider. This should be interesting. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Dongwu arrived at Station Prime in person. Captain Hyojun watched the human shuttle dock with the station. The small ship looked fragile compared to Alliance vessels. Its hull was thin metal instead of armored plates. No visible weapons, no radiation shielding that he could see. How did they survive the journey? He wondered aloud. "Maybe they are tougher than they look," said Engineer Taemin, but even he sounded doubtful. The shuttle door opened. Ambassador Dongwu stepped out, followed by 2 other humans. One wore a military uniform with captain's bars. The other carried scientific equipment. All 3 looked calm and confident. Captain Hyojun studied them carefully. The humans walked upright on 2 legs like most species. But they had no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no poison glands. Their skin was thin and easily damaged. They looked like prey animals that had somehow learned to use tools. The formal meeting took place in the Alliance Council chamber. Admiral Nari sat at the head of the curved table. 12 species were represented, each more dangerous-looking than the humans. The Crithari had razor-sharp claws. The Vulcani could crush steel. The Thoraxians had armor-plated skin and acid spit. Ambassador Dongwu seemed tiny among them. "State your case," Admiral Nari said. Her voice echoed in the large chamber. "Earth requests full membership in the Deathworld Alliance," Ambassador Dongwu began. "We believe we can contribute to your fight against the Vorthan Empire." Captain Raywan leaned back in her chair. "Ambassador, with respect, your species does not appear suited for warfare. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no obvious adaptations for combat." "That is correct, Captain," the human replied. "We evolved as persistence hunters. We are not built for single combat. We are built for endurance and problem-solving." Dr. Wusiok made notes on his tablet. "Tell us about your homeworld, Ambassador." The human captain stepped forward. "I am Captain So Young of the Earth vessel Resilience. Our planet has experienced 5 major extinction events: ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, and solar radiation bursts. Each time most life died, each time we survived. Many species survive natural disasters," said Commander Dalsu dismissively. "Not like humans," said the third human, introducing himself as Dr. Yan Ho. "We survived by adapting our behavior, not our bodies. When the climate changed, we learned to make tools. When predators hunted us, we learned to hunt in groups. When disease struck, we learned medicine." Captain Hyojun found himself listening with interest. "You mentioned wars using planet-destroying weapons." Ambassador Dongwu nodded. "We have fought 2 world wars involving most of our population. We developed nuclear weapons capable of ending all life on Earth. For decades, we lived under the threat of total destruction. We learned to negotiate, to find solutions other than violence." "But you also learned violence," Admiral Nari observed. "Yes," Captain So Young admitted. "We are very good at violence when necessary, but we prefer to win without fighting." The council murmured among themselves. The idea seemed strange to them. Alliance species fought because they were strong. Humans seemed to think because they were weak. "What specific contributions can Earth make?" asked Captain Raywan. Dr. Yan Ho activated a holographic display. "We have studied reports of your battles with the Shadowbane. The enemy ship uses predictive algorithms to anticipate your tactics. It succeeds because your tactics follow logical patterns." "Our tactics are proven effective," growled Captain Hyojun. "Against other logical opponents, yes," Dr. Yan Ho agreed. "But what if you used illogical tactics? Unpredictable methods that no computer could anticipate?" The council fell silent. The concept seemed absurd. Battle tactics were developed over thousands of years. They worked because they made sense. "Chaos is not strategy," Admiral Nari said finally. "Controlled chaos can be," Ambassador Dongwu replied. "On Earth, we call it asymmetric warfare, using unexpected methods to defeat superior forces." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Lieutenant Jiwan's voice echoed from the speakers. "Admiral, long-range sensors detect the Shadowbane approaching." Out of 6 hours, the council chamber erupted into activity. Captains rushed to their ships. Strategic displays showed Alliance vessels moving into defensive positions. Captain Hyojun felt the familiar knot of fear in his stomach. "Ambassador, you should evacuate with the civilian population," Admiral Nari said. "We would prefer to observe the battle," Captain So Young said. "If possible." "This is not a training exercise," Captain Raywan snapped. "People are going to die." "We understand," the human captain replied calmly. "But we cannot help you if we do not understand your enemy." Admiral Nari hesitated. Then she nodded. "Stay on the station. Do not interfere." Captain Hyojun returned to the Iron Spine feeling angry and helpless. The humans seemed sincere, but they did not understand real warfare. Their soft appearance suggested they came from an easy world. How could creatures that looked like children help the galaxy's greatest warriors? The Shadowbane appeared on long-range sensors exactly when predicted. The black ship moved through space with terrible purpose. Its weapons began charging before it even entered effective range. "All ships, assume formation Delta 7, Admiral Nari commanded from her flagship. The Alliance fleet moved into position. 50 ships formed a defensive sphere around Station Prime. Heavy cruisers on the outside, fast attack ships in the middle, support vessels protected at the center. Captain Hyojun watched the tactical display with growing dread. The formation was perfect. The strategy was sound. It should work. But he knew it would not. The Shadowbane had faced this exact formation 3 times before. Each time it had found a way to break through. Enemy ship entering weapons range, reported Taemin. The Shadowbane opened fire. Its massive guns sent streams of energy toward the Alliance fleet. But instead of hitting the ships, the shots struck empty space. The enemy was firing at where the Alliance ships would be, not where they were. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Hyojun ordered. The Alliance fleet moved exactly as trained. Each ship followed precise patterns designed to avoid enemy fire. For a moment it seemed to work. Then the second wave of shots arrived. The Shadowbane had predicted their evasive maneuvers perfectly. 3 Alliance ships exploded in bright flashes. 2 more lost power and began drifting. The enemy ship moved closer, its guns tracking new targets with mechanical precision. "Formation is breaking down," reported Captain Ray Wan over the communication channel. "Maintain position," Admiral Nari ordered, but her voice sounded strained. Captain Hyojun watched another ship die. The Shadowbane was toying with them. It could have destroyed the entire fleet by now. Instead, it was taking its time, showing the galaxy how helpless the Alliance had become. Then something unexpected happened. A small ship broke from the station and flew directly toward the Shadowbane. Captain Hyojun recognized the human shuttle. Captain So Young was apparently joining the battle. "That fool," he muttered. "She will be destroyed in seconds," but the shuttle did not attack. Instead, it began flying in strange patterns around the larger ships. It moved erratically, changing direction without warning. Sometimes it flew backward. Sometimes it spun in circles for no apparent reason. The Shadowbane's guns turned toward the shuttle, but every shot missed. The human ship was too unpredictable. The enemy computer could not calculate where it would be next. More surprisingly, the shuttle began rescuing survivors from damaged Alliance ships. It flew through debris fields that should have torn it apart. It picked up escape pods while dodging enemy fire. The human pilot seemed to ignore all standard safety procedures. "How is she doing that?" Captain Ray Wan asked over the radio. Captain Hyojun had no answer. The human ship moved like a drunken insect. It should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, it was saving lives while making the mighty Shadowbane look foolish. The enemy ship seemed to grow frustrated. Its rate of fire increased. But the more it shot at the human shuttle, the more Alliance ships escaped. The distraction was working. After an hour of fruitless pursuit, the Shadowbane withdrew. For the first time in 3 years, it had failed to complete its mission. Captain Hyojun stared at his tactical display in amazement. Back on Station Prime, the Alliance officers gathered to debrief. Captain So Young stood among them, looking tired but satisfied. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hair messy. She looked like she had just finished a difficult workout, not a life-or-death battle. "How?" Admiral Nari asked simply. "We did not follow standard procedures," Captain So Young explained. "Standard procedures are predictable. We chose to be unpredictable instead." "You risked your life for strangers," Captain Hyojun said. "Why?" The human woman smiled. "Because it was the right thing to do." For the first time, Captain Hyojun began to think the humans might be useful after all. The black ship moved through space like death itself. Captain Hyojun watched from the bridge of the Iron Spine as the massive vessel destroyed another Alliance station. Bright flashes lit up the darkness as the enemy guns fired. Each shot meant hundreds of lives lost. "Get us out of here," Hyojun ordered. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. The Krathari captain had fought in 50 battles. He had scars from acid rain and plasma burns. His homeworld tried to kill everything that lived on it. But nothing had ever scared him like the Shadowbane. The enemy ship was 3 times larger than any Alliance vessel. Its black metal seemed to eat light. Strange symbols glowed red along its hull. The ship had been terrorizing the galaxy for 3 years. No one knew where it came from. No one could stop it. "Jump drive ready," called Engineer Taemin from his station. The Melody officer's skin was yellow from living on an acid world. His people could survive in places that would melt other species in seconds, but even he looked afraid. "Jump," Hyojun said. The stars stretched into lines. The Iron Spine escaped into hyperspace just as the Shadowbane turned toward them. Hyojun slumped in his chair. Another defeat. Another retreat. He was tired of running. The Alliance fleet gathered at Station Prime 3 days later. Ships from 12 different worlds floated in formation. Each species came from a Deathworld, planets so dangerous that only the strongest could survive. The Crithari evolved on worlds with poisonous air. The Vulcani came from planets with crushing gravity. The Melody lived on worlds covered in acid oceans. These were the toughest fighters in the galaxy, but they were losing. Admiral Nari stood at the head of the war room. The Vulcani woman was built like a rock. Her people could crush steel with their bare hands. Scars covered her gray skin. She had never lost a battle until the Shadowbane appeared. "Report," she said in her deep voice. "Kepler Station is gone," Captain Hyojun said. 2 million civilians. The Shadowbane destroyed everything in 6 minutes. Other captains gave similar reports. The enemy ship moved too fast. Its weapons were too strong. Its shields could not be broken. Worst of all, it seemed to know what they would do before they did it. "The pattern is clear," said Dr. Wusiok, the Alliance's chief scientist. The thin Zarathi clicked his claws nervously. "The Shadowbane predicts our movements. Every time we try to surround it, the ship is already moving away. Every time we set a trap, it avoids the area." "How is that possible?" asked Captain Raywan. The young Crithari pilot had lost her entire squadron in the last battle. "Unknown," Dr. Wusiok admitted. "Their technology is beyond our understanding." Admiral Nari slammed her fist on the table. The metal cracked under the force. "We are the Deathworld Alliance. Our species survived planets that would kill anything else. We are the strongest warriors in the galaxy, but we are not winning," Captain Hyojun said quietly. The room fell silent. No one wanted to say what they all knew. The Alliance was losing. Ships were destroyed faster than they could be built. Colonies were abandoned. Fear spread through their territory like a plague. "We need a new strategy," Admiral Nari said. "What strategy?" asked Captain Raywan. "We have tried everything. Direct assault, guerrilla attacks, siege tactics. Nothing works. The Vorthan Empire grows stronger," added Commander Dalsu, an intelligence officer. "Other species are joining them. They think the Shadowbane proves the Empire cannot be stopped." Admiral Nari stared at the star map. Red zones showed Vorthan territory. It was growing larger every day. "Recommendations?" "We could retreat to the core worlds," suggested Dr. Wusiok. "Gather our strength." "That means abandoning 10 billion civilians," Captain Hyojun said. "We could try to negotiate," said Commander Dalsu. "The Vorthons do not negotiate," Admiral Nari replied. "They conquer or destroy." The meeting continued for hours. Every idea led to the same result: more death, more defeat. The Alliance was trapped. They were too proud to run, too weak to fight. A soft chime interrupted the discussion. Lieutenant Jiwan looked up from her communication station. "Admiral, we have an incoming transmission. Long range from the outer rim." "Put it through," Admiral Nari ordered. The hologram showed a bipedal figure. It had smooth skin, no claws, no natural armor. It looked soft, fragile. When it spoke, its voice was calm and friendly. "Greetings, Deathworld Alliance. My name is Ambassador Dongwu. I represent the planet Earth. We formally request membership in your alliance." The war room erupted in laughter. Captain Hyojun tried not to smile. The creature looked like it would break in a strong wind. Its planet was probably some garden world with gentle weather and peaceful animals. Admiral Nari raised her hand for silence. "I appreciate your offer, Ambassador, but alliance membership requires certain qualifications. Your species must have evolved on a Deathworld. You must have proven your strength in battle." Ambassador Dongwu nodded. "We understand the requirements, Admiral. Earth qualifies as a Deathworld. My people have extensive combat experience." More laughter filled the room. Captain Raywan could barely speak. "No offense, Ambassador, but you look like a gentle breeze would knock you over." "Appearances can be deceiving, Captain," the human replied. "We have survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We have endured plagues that killed most of our population. We have fought wars using weapons that could destroy our entire planet." The laughter stopped. Dr. Wusiok leaned forward with interest. "Nuclear weapons?" "Among others," Ambassador Dongwu said. "We also created biological weapons, chemical weapons, and artificial intelligence that tried to replace us. We survived all of it." Admiral Nari studied the strange creature. Its eyes were steady, confident. "What can Earth offer the Alliance?" "A different perspective," the human said. "You have tried to fight the Shadowbane using conventional tactics. Perhaps unconventional methods would work better." We are the strongest warriors in the galaxy, Admiral Nari said. Our methods are proven. Your methods are failing, Ambassador Dongwu replied gently. No disrespect intended, Admiral. But sometimes the strongest approach is not the right approach. The communication ended. The war room buzzed with conversation. Most officers dismissed the humans as weak and naive, but Captain Hyojun felt something different. Hope, maybe, or desperation. We cannot be serious about accepting them, Captain Raywan said. Why not? Asked Dr. Wusuk. What do we have to lose? Our reputation, several voices answered. Admiral Nari stood slowly. Her massive frame cast shadows across the room. Our reputation is already damaged. We are losing this war. She paused, making her decision. Send a reply to Earth. Tell them we will consider their application. Captain Hyojun felt a strange sensation in his chest. For the first time in months, he was curious about the future. Maybe these soft-looking humans would be useless in battle, or maybe they would surprise everyone. The Shadowbane was still out there, still killing. But now the Alliance had something new to try. Something different, something human.